Segment 5, Trying KSM. On November 13th, Attorney General Eric Holder announced that instead of appearing before military tribunals, 5 suspected terrorists, then held in Guantanamo, I guess as we shoot this, they're still in Guantanamo, will be tried in an ordinary federal court in New York City. One of the 5 is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, by his own admission, the mastermind behind the planning of the 9/11 attacks. I quote John Yoo in an article he published in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "Trying Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in civilian court will be an intelligence bonanza for al-Qaeda and the hostile nations that will view the U.S. intelligence methods and sources that such a trial will reveal." Close quote. Explain.
Well, the Constitution requires that we have an open public trial for any criminal defendant tried by our government. One of the rights that every defendant has is to force the government to open up its files and say and provide all the information it has on the defendant. So this is not an uncommon tactic. People like Aldrich Ames and Hansen, other al-Qaeda members, the 9/11, the bombers of the first bombers of World Trade Center, they will all ask the government to put all that information in the public. This is going to be terrible for our efforts against al-Qaeda because we'll have to explain, for example, how do we know where Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was? Were we able to intercept his cell phones? Were we able to read his emails? How did we capture him? All of that is going to have to be made public. And if that's al-Qaeda will then have great insight into how we're able to keep track of them and how we're able to fight them.
Jim Comey and your former Justice Department colleague Jack Goldsmith in the Washington Post, quote, "In terrorist trials over the past 15 years, federal prosecutors and judges have gained extensive experience at protecting intelligence sources and methods." In other words, John, you relax. "Limiting a defendant's ability to raise irrelevant issues and tightly controlling the courtroom." Close quote. Layman Robinson says you says this. A couple other lawyers say relax, don't worry about it.
I think the problem is they don't have examples on their side. I can point you to 2. The first is the trial of the blind sheikh.
Which was 495 roughly?
It was in the 90s.
All right.
And in the trial of the blind sheikh, the government had to turn over.
Masterminded the first bombing attack on the World Trade.
Right.
The bomb that blew up in the parking lot. Okay,
right.
Go ahead.
And the normal process, the government had to provide to the defense a list of all the co-conspirators, the people who we think were helping or conspiring with the defendants to advance their plot. It was a list of some 100-some people, 175, I think. And if you look at it, it was essentially all the people we thought were members of al-Qaeda. And that list was found in Osama bin Laden's safe house. It was just apparently faxed to him just a few weeks later. Think about what an amazing advantage that is for al-Qaeda to look at the list of everyone we think is a member.
All these covers have been blown, and now Osama knows it.
Exactly. And it also tells them who we haven't found yet either. It tells you what plots are ahead, which plots are not. Well, that's one example. The second, even better example is after 9/11. We captured this fellow named Zacarias Moussaoui, the fellow who wanted to learn how to take off in an airplane but didn't care about learning how to land them. And so our FBI, sharp as it is, identified that guy as a problem.
And he was, we now know he would have been the 20th hijacker, but for some logistical mix-up.
Right, he wasn't able to get through the training, get to one of the planes. Moussaoui's trial went on for 4 to 5 years. Never saw a single proceeding before a jury because he spent all those years just asking, I want to see all the evidence you have on me. I want to see how you know I'm even a member of al-Qaeda. And he wrapped that court in knots. The only reason the trial ended was because he changed his mind and said, oh, I've decided to plead guilty. There was never any resolution of any of those questions about whether the government could actually try him without having to open up its intelligence files. And I think ultimately they would have had to. John Walker Lind, from just across the bay here, did the exact same thing, and because of that, the government had to reach a plea bargain with him. So I don't think there is any great track record where the government has been able to try actual members of al-Qaeda in our courts.
So what the Goldsmith argument reduces to is give us a little time, we're experiment. We're learning as we go along. The correct answer to which is you learn on somebody else's dime. Don't put the defense of this nation at risk.
Especially when there's an alternate system, the military commissions system.
Okay, let me give you another quotation from the Comey and Goldsmith article in the Washington Post. Quote, in deciding to use federal court, the Attorney General, Holder, probably considered the record of the military commission system that was established in November 2001. One reason commissions have not worked well is that changes in constitutional and international military laws since they were last used during World War II have produced great uncertainty about the commission's validity, close quote. What do you make of that?
Well, I think the problem is that our current federal courts and litigation against them won't let any of these military commissions actually go forward and try someone all the way to judgment. And I'm confident once that happens that people will see that
what happens? Once the federal courts finally...
let a military commission actually hold a real trial. They actually haven't been able to hold a real open trial because the federal courts have been trying to block them or have been...
So what is needed to break that deadlock in the federal bench?
I think it's...
Is there a Supreme Court case that somebody could bring and that would just decide it cleanly with this court?
I think what the Obama administration has to do is let the prosecutors go forward. I think the Supreme Court has said you can now proceed. Congress authorized the commission trials and passed rules of procedure and evidence, so it can go forward now. But then the Obama administration, by moving KSM and his fellow leaders out of that system after hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of man-hours have been put into their cases, transfer them out, loses even more time. I think that commissions would show that the military justice system is entirely fair, in some ways fairer than our civilian system.
All right. John, you conclude Crisis and Command with sentences that I find surprising. I'll quote them. If Obama wishes to guide the nation successfully through its period of economic crash and foreign threat, he must draw on the mainspring of presidential power as deeply as his greatest predecessors, Lincoln, Washington. So far, John Yoo writes, Obama shows early signs that he has learned this lesson well, close quote. After all that you say, John, you support the Obama administration?
I think that they are coming to their senses in foreign affairs. I think what President Obama said in Oslo and winning the Peace Prize about defending America's right to defend itself, I thought that was a big change from what we'd seen earlier.
He's being mugged by reality.
Exactly. I think the administration came in with some naivete about national security. I think they're getting better at it. I think the decision to send 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan was a wise decision on his part when his base is screaming to pull out of Afghanistan and to pull out of Iraq as fast as possible. He rejected the idea that Afghanistan would be another Vietnam. So I think that in order to achieve success, I actually think the great irony of the Obama administration will be they're cratering on domestic policy. Right now, the newest polls show that less than 50% of the people approve of his job performance. The thing that's going to save his presidency is success, victory in Afghanistan. And it would be ironic, to say the least, wouldn't it, if the great savior of his presidency is the energetic, vigorous presidency exercising national security powers and war powers abroad, which is what Afghanistan is.
John, we will FedEx this segment directly to the West Wing.
I'm sure it'll be watched over and over again, too.
John Yoo, author of Crisis and Command, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Again, be sure to follow Uncommon Knowledge on Twitter at twitter.com/UNC Knowledge. For Uncommon Knowledge, I'm Peter Robinson. Thanks for joining us.